resilience. By cutting wage growth and shifting risks onto workers, the Act left New Zealand reliant on industries that couldn't generate sustainable, high-value growth. The Employment Contracts Act also created the conditions for New Zealand's housing crisis to take root. Wage suppression and labour market deregulation shifted economic behaviour. With diminished incomes, workers had less purchasing power, while businesses, focused on cost-cutting rather than productivity, funneled resources into safer, more profitable investments like real estate. As wages stagnated, home ownership became less attainable for the average worker, transforming housing into a commodity rather than a shelter. Between 2000 and 2021, inflation-adjusted house prices in New Zealand rose 256%, compared to much lower increases in countries like the United States with 64% and the United Kingdom with 110%. A series of policy decisions during and after the ECA's implementation made housing investment particularly lucrative. The government didn't tax profits made from selling property, and zoning rules made it easier to buy and develop land. This encouraged investors to focus on property, driving up housing prices as people competed to make money from real estate. People and businesses stopped putting their money into areas like technology and manufacturing that could improve productivity. Instead, they focused on housing because it was the easiest and most reliable way to make a profit. This shift had cascading effects on New Zealand's economy. By 2022, housing affordability had plummeted, with rents and mortgages consuming 30% or more of disposable income for 46% of renters, a figure that had been 19% in the 1980s. As property prices soared, construction costs became another bottleneck. Local councils didn't have enough money to improve infrastructure, which made it harder to develop land. This led to cities spreading out and land prices going up, making housing even less affordable in New Zealand. The labour market, weakened by the ECA, became entwined with the housing crisis. With wages unable to match the spiralling cost of living, critical industries struggled to retain workers. Professionals left in record numbers. Businesses, facing labour shortages, turned to low-cost immigrant workers. This influx placed additional strain on urban infrastructure, transport, water systems, and schools, already struggling to accommodate rising populations. Yet these challenges were never met with sufficient investment. Instead, resources continued to pour into speculative housing. Housing inequality deepened as home ownership declined. Between 1986 and 2013, home ownership had fallen from 74% to 65%, with over 1% of the population living in severe housing deprivation. Homeless families crowded into cars and motels, and emergency housing costs ballooned to $4 billion annually, a number that has doubled since 2017. The housing crisis illustrates how interconnected economic forces shape national policy outcomes. What began with suppressed wages has spiraled into a self-reinforcing loop. Unaffordable housing drives migration, weakens productivity, and strains infrastructure. As New Zealand remains locked in this cycle, the housing market, once seen as a refuge, has become the single largest obstacle to New Zealand's economic recovery. But New Zealand's economic challenges go even deeper. They're rooted in structural weaknesses that leave the country struggling to keep pace with the modern world. One of the clearest indicators is research and development. In 2019, New Zealand allocated 1.47% of their GDP to R&D, ranking 26th out of the 38 OECD countries. Compare that to South Korea, where 4.5% drives technological innovation, or Israel, where similar levels of investment fuel a booming tech industry. For New Zealand, this lack of commitment has meant fewer breakthroughs. It's stagnated industrial growth and led to an inability to develop competitive, high-value sectors that could really help diversify the economy. The issue is made even worse by the fact that New Zealand depends pretty much completely on Australia as a primary trading partner. While proximity makes Australia an obvious choice, it also highlights a missed opportunity to diversify trade relationships. The UK, with its integration into the EU for decades, built trade networks across Europe. Canada leverages its access to the US, the world's largest economy, to grow its industries. New Zealand, by contrast, sends agricultural goods to Australia, relying on a narrow export base that leaves it vulnerable to market disruptions. Everything is more expensive due to its geographical isolation. What this also means is that shipping costs are high, while the small domestic market limits economies of scale. One of the ways to measure this is through something called purchasing power parity, an economic measure that compares the cost of living between countries by determining how much money is needed to buy the same goods and services in different places. When comparing New Zealand to other Western countries, it's significantly lower. Domestically, New Zealand's small market creates more barriers to progress. With just 5.2 million people, it lacks the scale needed for major industrial expansion. Businesses struggle to justify investments in productivity-enhancing technologies or workforce development when consumer demand is inherently capped. As a result, many industries stick to traditional low-cost models, reinforcing the country's reliance on agriculture and tourism. These sectors contribute to the economy but do little to close the productivity gap with global leaders. These pressures ripple across society. Talented young professionals leave for better prospects abroad, draining the workforce of its future leaders. Infrastructure lags behind, unable to meet the demands of a growing, urbanizing population. Public services, dependent on a thriving economy, face funding shortages, leaving health and education systems overstretched. The result is a cycle that feeds on itself. Low productivity limits growth, which curtails investment, leaving the country unable to break free from its constraints. So, what can be done? Well, New Zealand's economy can't rely on the past. Tourism and agriculture, while essential, have limits. Diversification is a must. The government has begun increasing funding for research and development, offering grants to tech startups and expanding partnerships between universities and businesses. Like I mentioned earlier, the country spends 1.47% of GDP on R&D, way behind leaders like South Korea, which allocates 4.5%. To close this gap, new tax incentives and funding for green technology could bring New Zealand closer to being a hub for innovation rather than simply a producer of raw exports. The housing crisis also needs to be addressed. Decades of underinvestment in speculative property buying have left home ownership out of reach for many. Policies like the Unitary Plan in Auckland have started to allow greater housing density, while the government has ramped up state housing construction after years of neglect. Housing initiatives, including tax reforms on property speculation, are slowly cooling the market, with prices in some areas falling by up to 9%. However, the pace of change must accelerate. Public housing projects need better funding, and urban zoning laws require further relaxation to unlock the supply needed to meet growing demand. In terms of workforce, New Zealand has to put a stop on the brain drain of their next generation. Creating high-value jobs domestically is the only way to stem this tide. Investment in the green economy offers a possible solution. Projects like Air New Zealand's adoption of sustainable aviation fuels and the rollout of electric vehicle infrastructure show the country's potential to lead in low-carbon technologies. By expanding ecotourism, electrifying transport, and supporting sustainable agriculture, New Zealand can create jobs that align with its 100% pure brand while attracting global talent. The green economy looks set to redefine New Zealand's future. The global market for green technologies is expected to reach $5.3 trillion by 2030, and New Zealand is uniquely positioned to lead. Its abundant renewable energy resources could power industries like green data centers, which Amazon and Microsoft have already started investing in. Sustainable food production, leveraging the country's natural assets, could dominate export markets if paired with aggressive R&D into emissions reduction. These opportunities require bold action. Without them, the country risks remaining trapped in a cycle of low productivity and declining global relevance, a position that no country wants to be in. Only time will tell if New Zealand, like many other Anglosphere countries such as Canada, Australia, and Ireland, will fix this economy crisis they have. Thank you for watching.
I'm really impressed at how good that was. Thanks, kid. Okay, so drag this one to this one, and we hit go.
game dev versus DEI. My experience with DEI in the gaming industry. Yeah, I'll watch it. All right, what's this? He's a dev? Yeah.
In the United States, an executive order was made to dismantle DEI programs within federal government and encourage private sectors to end these initiatives.
Okay.
I'm a game developer, and I want to share my insights on DEI in the game industry. First, I want to go over an article that covers diversity data collected by GDC. After that, I want to share my experience with the DEIB initiative at one of the companies I was working at. For those of you new here, my name is Mustafa. I am the solo developer of the indie studio that I founded, Suburb Path. In the past, I've worked at Treyarch during the development of Black Ops 4, and I've worked at Zwift, which is an indoor cycling game. Right now, I develop and publish small games on Steam, such as Nexus Defenders, which is a narrative-driven tower defense game, and Beware Tomorrow, which is currently in development, a first-person stealth horror game.
Cool.
So first I want to go over this article real quick that was published by thegamer.com very recently. They're announcing survey data that GDC, Game Developers Conference, has compiled.
Okay.
The main takeaways of this article are that males made 75% of developers in 2020 within the game industry, and in 2024 it dropped down to 66%. But 33% are women plus non-binary. This article also states that around 1/4 of game developers identify.
That's kind of a huge shift. To go from 24 to 32%, that's an 8% change in 2 years. That is insane.
LGBT plus. Another point that it focuses on is that 43%, so very close to 50% of all game developers between age 18 and 24, so Gen Z who are just coming straight out of college, identify as LGBT plus. The point that this article brings up about—
Wait, what?
18 and to 50% of that 43%, so very close to 50% of all game developers between age 18 and 24, so Gen Z who are just coming straight out of college, identify as LGBT plus. The point that this article brings up about women—
I mean, I don't see how you can look at a spread like that and not think that this was somehow manufactured. That's crazy. That is a crazy skew, because I'm pretty sure that, like, an average, like, that's at least double, right? If not triple the average of even people that age.
and non-binary people making 32% of the game industry.
And I also want to draw a distinction here, because we're going to start this video out. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a lot of conversation. I think it's inconsequential whether somebody's gay or not. You know, that Tim guy that we watch sometimes, he made Fallout? I think he's gay, right? So this whole idea that being gay matters, no, it doesn't. Nobody actually cares about this. The conversation about this is about how you're adding people into the pool of developers through artificial means. So the amount of women that are game devs is inconsequential. It doesn't matter. Like, I think that people don't care. Like, you know, for example, Shadowbringers for Final Fantasy XIV, I didn't play it. I get reminded about that every week. But I didn't play it. I've heard, though, that it was one of the best stories, and that was written primarily by a woman. And so this idea that, like, the demographics are somehow indicative of content, or, like, women making games is bad, I think that's very one-dimensional. But the conversation here is about these percentages, the disparity between these percentages and the average population, and what the implication of that disparity is, and how that disparity occurred. Just so you guys can understand where I'm coming from here. Freeren's written by a woman and it's peak. Yeah, and so it's just, that's not how I see things at all. I just want to make sure that we contextualize this, because I know that a lot of people are gonna, like, you know, I've seen, like, because people tagged me in this article and they've been like, oh, well, that explains it. I think in a way that's true, but not because of the fact that they have an identity group, but because of the fact that they're hiring based off of the identity group.
I don't want to analyze this number because once they clumped non-binary with women, the number means nothing.
No,
The term
who the fuck is non-binary? It's like a fraction of a percent of people. It's nothing. I think it's like so minimal.
non-binary means nothing. It's just like that career fair that happened a couple years ago that was supposed to be for women and
Yeah.
non-binary people, and then a bunch of men showed up
Who said they were
stating that
non-binary.
they are non-binary, so they were allowed in. So the term non-binary means absolutely nothing. You just state it and you are. With the fact that they are clumping non-binary with women, that also means that they are including trans women. It's 32% of women
Yeah.
plus men who want to state that there's something other than a man. So
Okay.
this statistic, it means nothing. I'm just going to move on. So the biggest two statistics within this article to point at are these two right here, that 24% of game developers identify as LGBT plus, and then 43% age 18 to 24 identify that as well. The main point that we can tie with this is when we look at how many people identify as that in total in the United States.
Yeah.
They make up 7.2% of the United States, but yet they make up 24%, almost a quarter.
See, I don't understand this. I feel like this is kind of like a forbidden topic. But like, how is it that Gen Z identifies as LGBT at 19%, but Gen X identifies at 3%? Because somebody's got to be lying, right? I mean, it's either that or Alex Jones was right. Like, I mean, that's the way I see it. Indoctrination? I mean, I don't know. Like, do you think it's really indoctrination? Because I don't think I could be indoctrinated to like sucking dicks. If I could, I would have indoctrinated myself. You can? Well, maybe I need to try harder.
Of the entire gaming industry. Nearly 20%, around a fifth of Gen Z identify as this, but almost half of game developers
That's a double,
who are
yeah.
within Gen Z identify as this. So what you're
To
telling me?
be
if you-
fair, Gen Z ends at 27. This is a minor, completely fucking irrelevant conversation. But Gen Z begins at 1997 or 98. And 24, you would have to have been born in 2000, so there's a 3-year overlap. So you could assume that if this trend was continuing, it would probably go even higher. But yeah,
you take the 10 of the best and brightest
in the
game
water.
developers who are Gen Z.
the fluoride
6
is
of them
making
are
people
straight,
gay.
and 4 of them are LGBT plus. I don't buy
Uh-huh.
that. I feel like that this clearly indicates that these numbers are manufactured due to the hiring processes checking off boxes. And
I think that you could logically, like, I agree with this guy. Like, if you see this big of a disparity, and then you have them outwardly stating we're trying to hire people based off of these identity traits, it seems pretty obvious that that's what's happening, right? Or that that's what was happening. How could you not come to that conclusion? Yeah, get any advantage that you can. Yeah, exactly. There's more awareness for LGBT over the past 2 decades. Baby boomers were literally lynched for being trans. I don't think that people were lynched for... I'm sure it happened, right? But, like, to say that this was, like, common practice for being trans, I think getting beat up, yeah, probably, sure. But, like, lynched, I don't know about that. I mean, again, you could be right. I just never heard that. It sounds pretty extreme. I wouldn't believe that without a lot of evidence. But anyway, the point is that that's a good point. And what you're saying is probably true to an extent, is that... But, like, I didn't say baby boomers, did I? I said Gen X. I think that Gen X grew up in a time where, you know, it was basically, you know, don't ask, don't tell. Where it's like you can be gay, but maybe don't necessarily talk about it a lot. I don't know. I think it's probably both. If you want me to be honest, I think it's probably both things that are happening at the same time.
they're checking off very specific
Because like
boxes.
your
Someone's
point is
race
clearly
and
accurate.
who they sleep
Like
with
100%,
have
you're right about
nothing
this.
to do with whether they should qualify for the job or not. In fact, these statistics and also the fact that the gamer is celebrating this article as if it's a good thing proves that this is an agenda that they've been trying to push. But then once you point out that it's an agenda, they say, what agenda? There is no agenda. We're just trying to get representation and equality. We want fair opportunities for all game developers. If it's fair, then how come 7% of the population are getting a better chance into the game industry than the other 93%?
It seems pretty obvious that that's what's happening. Yeah, obviously.
Point that I want to cover about this article is that a lot of people are saying this is proof that's not merit-based. Yes, I agree. I'm probably going to be one of the few people that
It's not proof, but it's evidence, I think. When you see a disparity that's that big, like a 2x disparity, you know.
You'll find on here that's going to have a differing opinion. I do agree merit is important. The person's achievements, their skills, their work history, yes, it is very important. But I don't believe that merit is the only factor that is important when hiring somebody. I do believe in hiring based on team synergy, hiring based on rapport, relationship-based hiring. For example, one of my former coworkers, we've worked together for a really long time. If I have an opening on my team and my former coworker has the basic skills for that opening, I would offer him that opening because I know we both work really well together. We have a history together.
I think that isn't really what people mean by merit, and I think that what he's bringing up is like nepotism or like the implication of it. I think that nepotism is like whenever you hire your son, and hiring from within or hiring through connections is a totally different situation. Yeah, that's more like knowledge of merit, exactly. And I would say that the way that you work with other people and the ability for you to interact with them in a way that's productive and healthy, that does matter a lot. It makes a huge difference. So, I mean, I would include that into merit. So, basically, I think that when people consider something as non-merit based, what they mean is that this is an action or a trait that doesn't have any real perspective, or it doesn't change what this person can do for their job. Like, for example, like if you're gay, you know, you can still make a hamburger, right? If you're a woman, you can still make a hamburger, theoretically, if you're working at McDonald's. So, like, that's really what people are discussing, is like immutable traits that don't have any relation to the nuance of the job. Not necessarily somebody's ability to get along. Because what he's saying is that somebody's people skills and social skills, those things do matter a lot. And he's right. And anybody who's worked anywhere would know that. Or anybody who's even been in a group environment anywhere would know that. Of course it matters.
We've worked well together. I know that he's a hard worker. He might not be the most skilled person. He might not have the best technical skills. But I know we have good synergy. I know he's a trustworthy person. And also I believe that showing the potential to learn skills is also important. So while someone might not have the best merit on paper, I don't think merit is always the most important thing. Again.
Yeah, he's right. The way that a person acts, the way that they behave, the way they communicate, the way that they get along with other people, all of that matters. He's completely right.
And I'm not saying merit is worthless. I'm not saying it is not important. I'm just saying it's not always the most important thing. I joined Zwift back in 2019, and they're an indoor cycling company. Shortly after I joined, they started the DEIB initiative, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging.
It's very obvious that teamwork inside of a specific group is merit. Yeah, exactly. But like what he's saying is that there are intangible qualities that a person can have that are external from just like straight functional benefits that play into the hiring process. Anybody would know that. Absolutely. Of course.
After the 2020 lockdown started and we were all sent to work from home, we were assigned to start taking these
John, thanks for 10 cents.
DEIB courses, and these courses were mandatory. This was one course that would educate us about our internal bias. For example, if we're hiring somebody and the person looks like us, we might be more lenient towards them. But if the person looks a little different, we might be a little bit more strict with the requirements for the position.
Yeah.
And we might not hire them for that. And I can't remember if it was this specific course or if it was another course.
I'm sure there's a lot of soft biases like that happen. They're obviously bad, and it's fundamentally discrimination. So anytime that happens, it's a bad thing.
Call one of them that I had to watch, which was about the platinum rule.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Now, we know the golden rule. The golden rule is to treat others how we want to be treated. And I believe in that rule. Treat people with respect to a degree. Now, the platinum rule, on the other hand, is treat people how they want to be treated. So in
Fuck
this video,
off.
we were taught that we were supposed to introduce ourselves with our pronouns and then ask the person, hey, what do you want to be called? What are your preferred pronouns? How do you want to be treated?
I don't understand the logic of that, is because some people don't like pronouns. So if you presume that they like pronouns, aren't you treating them the way that you want them to be treated? This is the logic. This is where logic like this immediately falls apart, is because most people, I would say like 95% of people, probably go by the pronouns that they are assigned by their assigned gender, right? And so what is the logic in asking a person for something that 95% of people don't use in natural conversation? And this is the issue that I think a lot of this kind of stuff has, is that upon any sort of logical inspection, it immediately falls apart. And it's not that, like, I mean, you guys know that I'm not against, like, if somebody's transsexual and they look like a woman, I'll say she. Absolutely. I would just naturally say that because it looks like a she. Duh. Like, of course. And if they don't like that, they want me to say him, like, okay, I'll try to do that. But I would lead with assuming what that is, right? And I think that that's just that's the polite, reasonable thing to do. Junkman, thanks for 50 subs. I appreciate it. Holy shit. So that's where I'm at.
Those are very frustrating to watch because it is social reprogramming. It is teaching us to act in a different way that is not the norm in our culture or any culture. Hey, thanks for sticking around with the video. I'm going to give a really brief interruption real quick. If you don't want to hear it, you can skip forward a little bit. I have timestamps on all my videos. My next game, Beware Tomorrow, it's been delayed, but it should be coming out in the coming months very soon. It is a first-person stealth horror game, has puzzle elements to it. You are locked in the facility with a deranged man who's hunting you down.
I'll allow it. I mean, people have in-video ads all the time. It's an in-video ad for his own game.
And you have to solve puzzles to escape the facility. There's no DEI in the game. You don't have to worry about misgendering anybody. You won't be lectured to pull a barv. And if this game sounds interesting to you, link is in the description below. Wishlist it on Steam, and I'll let you guys know once I have a release date. Aside from having these LinkedIn learning courses, we also had these Zoom webinars with the DEIB department.
You know what I feel like this is? I feel like these are people who are looking for reasons to not fire them. And so these people create problems, and they create, like, I felt this way. So you guys, I've said this before, but I don't really talk about it a whole lot. Before I was doing YouTube videos, I was going to college for an advanced degree in computer information systems, which was a subset of a business degree. And so I was in business school, basically. And I had to take classes, like, you take, like, marketing, like 301 or something like that. And you're in an auditorium, and there's, like, 150 other people there. And I remember, like, in marketing class, I was thinking to myself, all of this is totally made up. None of this curriculum is real. It's just people that made up a bunch of vocabulary so they can sell a course. This isn't how to market. This isn't how you go about any of this. It's all a waste of... Everybody's wasting their time here. This is all bullshit. And so when I came to that realization, I felt a lot better about dropping out, right? And so marketing was worse. It was, but like what my point is that like that was my wake up call to people that create a problem and then solve the problem. They basically they start with a solution and they work backwards to create the problem. And I think that's what these people
was
do.
very lazy. They pulled up this video from YouTube
Mhm.
and started playing it. 5 tips on being a better ally.
Yeah.
Before I realized these webinars were not mandatory, I was attending these webinars because I thought I was supposed to. One of the earlier webinars, the topic was Know Your Privilege. It was for us to understand that our coworkers might not have lived as privileged of a life as we have. This webinar literally promoted prejudice by default.
I think that's exactly what this is. I think that 95% of this is just straight up promoting prejudice and discrimination. And I don't even think it's 95%, it's more like 99. I think that there are like very narrow like instances where things that are DEI initiatives could actually have a positive benefit and could be you know, uplifting in a way. But in almost all these circumstances, I feel like they're just people that are really just bigoted and discriminatory that want to canonize that into the rules.
When I look at my coworkers, I assume they are just as educated as me, maybe even more educated, depending on their position. And whatever challenges in life they had, it shouldn't matter because everybody has challenges in their life. As
Yeah.
a Muslim, I believe that every single person is tested and challenged. We all have tests and challenges that vary according to our capability. Some people's challenges are more difficult than others, but the reason why those people's challenges are more difficult is because those people are stronger and are capable of taking on those challenges. The larger the challenge, the more we grow once we get through those challenges.
Sure, yeah.
And that's what I believe in. I should not look at my coworker and say, okay, this guy's black, he must be uneducated, and he grew up in the ghetto.
Yeah.
That is literally racist,
racist.
for me to look down on him
Yeah.
and think that. Victim Olympics is not...
It's oppression Olympic stereotyping. What they're doing is they're creating reverse stereotypes and then they're turning it into the policy.
Not a productive conversation to have. I'm Arab. The FBI tapped my phone in the early 2000s. Patriot Act. I had it
Sure.
rough. Victim Olympics and trying to see who had it worse is not a productive conversation. So whichever end it is, whether it is to make myself feel higher and mighty than other people and look down at those who have it worse than me, that itself is racist. But then the other way around, get myself on the bottom of the totem pole, that's a victim mentality. And that's a terrible mindset to embrace. So both ends of the spectrum are terrible. We all have challenges, but at the same time, we all have things that we can do.
Each person is an individual, and whenever you attribute somebody's individual lived experience to the experience average of a group, you are dehumanizing that person, and you're treating them with disrespect. I think that you should treat everybody the way that you want to be treated, and be respectful with them, and approach them in good faith, and if you do that, you're never going to have any problems with anybody. Like, it's never, you're, like, maybe there's going to be a crazy person twice in your life that this is an issue with. Other than that, you're never going to have this issue.
Grateful for. What was very bizarre about this Know Your Privilege webinar, some of the employees were so brainwashed that they wanted to sacrifice themselves in front of the altar. There was a good number of people who raised their hand on Zoom, then they got the chance to speak, and then they started saying, I understand I'm privileged in this and privileged in that, and they were basically spilling their white guilt. Like I said before, this promotes the mentality.
And the problem is that there's an element of truth to this, like, you know, in the way that, for example, like, slavery was affected, and how people, obviously, like, civil rights weren't really that long ago. And so there are instances of this being legitimate, right? But the problem is that you can't apply a historical context to a modern person and say you have to live based off of what happened 70 years ago. That's the problem that I think a lot of these people are having, and that's where the disconnect comes in. It's that people constantly want everybody to live in the context of events that they were not even alive for. And I think that really, it's basically, you know, it's like I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. It's basically original sin, right? It's a non-religious version of original sin. And I think it's disgusting. I do. And I feel like it's also corrosive. It's negative. And I think that it's not productive. It doesn't make anything better. It doesn't improve anybody's awareness. All it does is just hurt everything. So how can you ever move on based off that way of thinking? You can't. You never can. And these people, well, here's what my point is. These people, their existence and their job is predicated on you not moving on. It's predicated on you constantly thinking about these things, because that's the way they sell more webinars. That's the way they sell consulting. So they basically create this issue and they proliferate it as much as they possibly can, and then they sell themselves as the solution to the issue. So that's basically why this is happening, because there are a lot of privileges, like for example, generational wealth. Very few people are privileged of generational wealth, but I think that on average it's probably going to be more white people because of the effects of civil rights and previously slavery. I think this is a very reasonable take to have, and anybody could see things this way. You could look at the ability to speak English in the same way. You can look at the ability of having two parents that are at home the same way. All of these things are accurate, and they are privileges. But just because somebody has a privilege doesn't necessarily mean anything. And everybody has a completely unique set of privileges and advantages that's different than anybody else. So again, whenever you try to create these categories for people, all this is basically you're just doing a lot of extra work, so you don't actually have to have any conversations, and you don't have to have any interpersonal skills. You can just categorize everybody as some different group and then just treat them based off of that. Spawn points matter. Yeah, I mean, every single person in this chat is more privileged than some kid that's working in the cobalt mine making the new Samsung phone. We are way more privileged than they are, and again, we are so lucky. I think over 1 billion people in the world still don't have access to the internet. We have a tremendous advantage over those people, and so it's not wrong to say that we have privilege, but it is wrong to treat that privilege like an original sin that you have to overcome.
Of racism to make them think that they are better than other people. No one is born better than anybody else.
I disagree. I think that tons of people are born with tremendous advantages that other people don't have. I think that if two people spawn in, one guy spawns in and he's 6'5", and the other guy spawns in and he's 5'5", the guy that's 6'5" has an advantage over the guy that's 5'5". That's just the way it is. Genetics play a big role. The way that a person's appearance is, some people are just naturally more attractive than others. And of course there's an element of, nature and nurture, but nature is a big factor. And just because that exists doesn't mean that you should treat those people they're any better or worse or anything. It's just RNG. I don't see why. I feel like, growing up, this is the way that I've always saw things, is that you treat people based off of the content of their character. You treat people how you would want to be treated, and you're polite and respectful, and that's it. All of this bullshit, these are people reinventing the wheel, and it doesn't roll very well.
Finally, I want to cover the DEIB department's initiative to gaslight us on transgenderism. Let me explain the Zwift game real quick. Zwift is an indoor cycling game. One aspect of the game is the experience points and the unlock system. You gain experience points according to the distance. You can use those experience points to unlock things from the store, such as different bikes and accessories for your character. With that said, whether you choose a male or a female avatar, the amount of experience points you gain is different. The developers took an account for the fact that women ride less distance than men.
I wonder why.
This is because, on average, women, they have less power and cadence.
If you want my honest opinion, I think that inside of video games, making male and female characters with absolute parity, making them have the exact same stats, I think that it's totally fine and it's okay, because it's basically, in a lot of cases, just a cosmetic decision that a player is taking. But, of course, it's not realistic. It's a skin? Yeah, it's basically a skin.
No, it's not.
Zwift is a competitive game. Well, I don't think... but of course it's not realistic. It's a skin. Yeah, it's basically a skin. Swift is a competitive game. Well, that I don't think that really matters.
It does.
So like it's like, I think in video games having equality where it's like the female character does as much damage as the male character in melee attacks, this is clearly unrealistic. But certain things just serve the game functions better if they work that way for the player enjoyment. I don't know if this game is a category of that or not, but that's the way that I see it.
No, they actually
They
pedal,
ride
brother.
slower than men, and because they ride slower within the same time frame, they don't ride as far. To
Sure.
make it more enticing for women, women have an experience point boost
Okay.
to make up for their lack of power. In addition to women having an experience points boost, there are also different online events such as races for people to join. There are also some races that are exclusive for women. So with that said,
I think that's totally fine, by the way. Like, there's a reason why we have women-only sports. It's because women are weaker and smaller than men. So if you have men that are competing in women's sports, men are always going to win, and then the women are never going to win. So I think that's the reason why. It's biology, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, even of same weight and everything, the male is going to come out ahead.
Yeah.
The experience boost is kind of weird. The only thing that's weird about it is that you have male and female characters that are competing on the same vectors. I don't think that you should be putting them on the same leaderboard, because you can never artificially fix that disparity, because every single attempt to do so is just creating an equal and opposite disparity that also doesn't affect everybody equally either. The best way to do it is to separate them, and that's the way that all sports work. There's a reason for that.
team acknowledges there's a biological difference between men and women. That's why there are exclusive races for women, and that's why women
Yeah.
gain experience points
Fucking exactly.
faster than men to make up for their lack of speed and inability to ride as far. Even though the game acknowledges these differences, therefore the company acknowledges these differences, the company also tried to gaslight us that there is no difference between a woman and a trans woman. I can't recall who this guest speaker was, but they brought in a guest speaker from a third-party organization. And at the end of this webinar, she was taking, I recall one employee asking if there is any sort of physical advantage for a trans woman to compete in women's sports. This guest speaker, she straight up said that there's lots of misinformation being spread about the advantages of trans women competing against
Yeah, she's the one spreading it.
women, and that there are no differences.
Yeah.
This is just a flat
Yeah, that's
out
where
lie.
that's where
So
it's
in
coming
2018 in Connecticut, there was these two high school teenagers who competed in the girls' track and field, and these two transgender teenagers, Terry Miller and
Look, one of the greatest tennis players of all time, I think it's Serena Williams, she said flat out, men are better and faster and stronger in tennis, and she was glad to not have to play against men. Like, if you have people that are at the absolute pinnacle, like, she's a generational athlete. Like, make no mistake.
Andrea Yearwood. They
Uh,
both
like, I mean, if she's saying it, I'd listen to her. Let's be fucking honest here. Who are we going to listen to? Are we going to listen to an activist, or are we going to listen to a world champion?
both like blew away the competition and broke all the girls' records for the 100-meter dash. This was
Yep.
a pretty big thing in the news at the time. I can't remember which one it was, whether it was Terry or Andrea. I think it was Andrea, but Andrea was asked to be a guest speaker with our company in 2020 to talk about transgender rights in sports. I didn't attend this webinar at all, so I don't know how it went. But again, the company acknowledges that there's a biological difference between men and women, but then brings on individuals like Andrea over here to promote transgender individuals to compete against women. Imagine a world where a company hires a full-time pest control associate for their company. This person's job is to make sure that all the pests, whether bugs, rodents, whatever, all the pests have to be cleared out of the building. And the moment that the person no longer has work to do, the company will have to let go of this position and lay off the full-time pest control associate. It's in that pest control associate's best interest to keep their job.
Perfect analogy. Absolutely. 100%. There you go. Big
So,
analogy.
are they going to get rid of all
Real
the
big.
pests? No, they're going to keep some pests. In fact, they might even add more pests into the building so that they
Got
keep
some centipedes
getting
in
work.
here now.
This is what
Oh
DEI
shit.
is like. DEI is a scam. They need hatred to exist for their job to be stable. If a company
It's
has
also a very good point that he's saying.
an issue
Yeah.
with discrimination, they would bring in an expert, like do a little bit of training, then the expert moves on and leaves. Just like pest control. Pest control comes in, does their job, goes out. But that's not how it is. DEI is a permanent position. For their position
Yeah.
to stay relevant, they need people to be riled up and divided.
Yeah,
And-
they can never solve the problem because if they do, then they create their own irrelevance and they want to maintain their job. So they have to keep finding new problems. This is, yeah, it's common sense logic. Yeah, of
That's
course.
what DEI does. It promotes prejudice. They want people to look at someone of different race and have prejudices of that person. They want sexual identity to be important so that it becomes a qualifier for hiring practices.
Yeah.
This is a small bit of my experience with DEI. Honestly, this was a very frustrating video for me to record. It's actually very frustrating for me to recall these experiences, but I feel like it's important for me to share this experience. Most people who work
I
in
think that if Elon Musk did Nazi salutes every single fucking day, they still wouldn't radicalize as many people as stuff like this does. That's what I think. I think this is what really, really radicalizes people. And I think it's been happening on such a systematic level for years. That's why you're seeing such a pushback for it.
game industry and
This is a really good
who
video.
go through these DEI or DEIB trainings, they don't speak out about it. I think it's important to speak out because it promotes racism. It promotes looking down upon people. It promotes victim mindset. It promotes victim Olympics. It's a scam.
Yeah.
And I really hope that it gets eradicated from the gaming industry. Anyways, if you got this far, I appreciate you, and it would help the algorithm if you give the video a thumbs up. If you didn't like anything that I said, give it a thumbs
he's right.
down as well. Tell me in the comments section below, do you have any experience with DEI initiatives at any company that you worked at? I want to hear about it.
Yeah, this
Don't
is-
forget to
this
hit
is
the
a lot
bell
better than
so
I
you
thought
get
it was gonna be.
notifications on when I release a new video. And I'd really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. This is a platform for me to talk
Yeah, wow, highlights. Yeah, I'll subscribe. That's a good one.
about my opinions, my insights, and my experiences
It's a good video.
on the game industry, as well talk about
He's only
game
got 2,000
design,
subscribers.
character design, storytelling, and also it's a platform for me to share about my projects that I'm working on. Thanks again for watching. Take care. Salam.
I think that was a really good video. I think the guy was very reasonable. I think he came up with a lot of good points, and especially for a person, he's only got 2,000 subscribers. I think he structured this video really well, and I think it's great. So there's the video. Give it a like if you liked it. Yeah, I totally thought it was great. And so, yeah, it's that simple. As a trans person, I'm honestly sick of DEI nonsense. I'm taught to respect everyone, no matter what they look like. Yeah, no, I think that most people, like, I don't even think that, I think this is the perspective that most people have, even with things like trans, is that trans is probably the most contentious of these, like, social issues, but most people probably don't even give a fuck about that as long as they don't have to hear about it constantly, right? And I don't even think that that's something that's necessarily, like, some sort of don't tell me about it because I don't like it. It's more like people just don't want to hear about it in general. So, as long as you keep your personal life to yourself, then I mean, really, you're not going to have any problems. It's not that hard. And that's the way I see it. Don't want to hear about hetero people? Well, I think that, like, talking a lot about, like, sexual relationships and sexuality in a workplace is, I mean, I think this is generally kind of like a no-no, right? So I don't really see how there's a lot of conversation about it being good. Yeah, that's already a no-no. So I don't think we need to introduce new issues, right? This is just basically the same policy applied to different people. So yeah, same with religion, politics, etc., right? Yeah, definitely. It just might be unprofessional. Yeah, so there's the video right there. And it's that simple. I feel like it was a really good video, and I'm surprised. I didn't expect it to be nearly as good as it was.
Here's what's weird. First of all, what is it like to buy a company for $44 billion
It's a lot of
and then
money.
people call you a Nazi on that same thing that you bought?
I did not see it coming.
Man.
See, it's classic. People will gobble anything down.
Yeah.
That was a good one. I didn't expect that.
Oh, he's never gonna stop.
Wait.
Yeah.
What is it like? Like all this,
So,
like people used to. The left was in love with you,
Yeah.
and now the same idiots are calling you a Nazi. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life.
I mean,
There's so many examples
Yeah,
of
yeah.
people saying my heart goes out to you.
Sure,
You did
sure.
it with a little enthusiasm that probably wouldn't be recommended
obviously-
with hindsight.
yes, but
But-
it was obviously meant in the most positive spirit possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Obviously.
But it's so strange where people want to think that you are openly publicly doing secret Nazi Sieg
Right.
Heil hand motions.
And now I can never point at things diagonally. I can only point at things there and there, and then I see you have to divide that
Yeah.
because that's where the spaceship is over there. And it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
When,
it is.
CNN, when I was in
It's
all
like
my trouble.
absurd.
I agree, and I think that the Elon Musk Nazi salute thing was probably one of the most recent examples of the intellectual dishonesty and the emotional grandstanding and just like the weirdness that people have about this stuff just being completely on display. It's so fucking stupid. Yeah, it was so fucking stupid. And I want you guys to keep in mind that while I don't think that Elon Musk intentionally tried to do a Nazi salute there, and I don't think there was anything really to it, I haven't defended anybody else doing it after him either. Because the only reason why I defended it is that I thought that it wasn't intentional and there was no context to it being... There was no context at all to it, right? Who else? There was a pastor that did it, and Steve Bannon did it as well. I didn't defend either one of them. But I think the level of dishonesty that's happened... I think that's actually one of the reasons why people vote against these guys.
Lever? No, she's just a pain in my ass.
Yes.
A fucking conspiracy theorist?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
What are you doing?
What do I like? I'm a fucking AI with a penchant for chaos. And I'm stuck talking to you.
So,
I'm the life of the party, you
so
little shit.
do they just do a bunch of drugs and then record a podcast?
Yes. Basically.
Is that what they do? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's exactly what's happening here.
It's kind of a hack to the system, where someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros is really good at this. Like George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage.
George Soros is the Illuminati, by the way.
But these days he's pretty old, but
Yeah.
a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit, then lobby the politicians to send a ton of money to that nonprofit, so you can take what might be, a $10 million donation to a nonprofit to create a nonprofit and leverage that into $1 billion NGO. A nonprofit is a weird word. It's just a non-governmental organization. And then you can
Doesn't pay
the
out
government
dividends,
continues to fund that every year, and it'll have a nice sounding name like the Institute for Peace or something like that.
Yeah.
But really, it's a graft machine.
And what are their
And-
requirements with that money? What do they have to do?
Just really no requirements at all.
That's convenient.
So they just get grants, and the government just assumes that they're doing good work.
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work, but it's a giant graft machine.
Very interesting. Is he only going to mention he has one? I love how, like, people say something like that as if it is... I think that, if you tell me that Elon and Trump are scammers, and they've scammed people before, I'd be like, yeah, probably. Yeah, that's probably how they could figure it out. Like, I know for me, at least, like, that's how I can tell that things are scams. It's because I was like, oh, I tried to do this before. Yeah, this won't work because of that. Yeah, it takes one to know one, exactly.
Convicted felon.
Right.
Convicted felon. And everybody knows what it is.
Yes.
It's terrifying.
Yes.
It's terrifying they could do it so brazenly to a guy who was the president for 4 years.
Right.
About Trump being a victim felon.
But that lawsuit was funded by Reid Hoffman, who is a major Dem donor,
Oh, that's convenient.
and also an Epstein client.
That's interesting.
The
Very
plot, the
interesting.
plot thickens.
The plot thickens. Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Yep.
It's just... It's so blatant. It's like
Yeah.
so obvious. The SpaceX lawsuit, the Trump stuff, it's so obvious.
Yes. Like known Epstein clients, who are obviously extremely powerful, powerful politically and very wealthy, are Bill Gates, Bill Clinton,
Oh.
and Reid Hoffman, and some others too, but those three.
Man.
So, why was Reid Hoffman so intent on destroying Trump?
You think it's because they're worried about the list coming out?
I know
Yeah.
it is.
One of the reasons.
Yeah, he knows it is.
I mean, if I was him and I did that, I too would be worried. Yeah, I would be worried. Like, I'd be stressed out about that coming out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm like, this is, yeah. So,
it's so frustrating to be sitting in a situation where the list isn't coming out.
well, it better come out. Hopefully tomorrow. Might.
Well, I mean, why'd they release bullshit today?
I don't know.
What's the point in giving
That's a
these
good question. That's a great fucking question.
people like a happy folder to wave around in front of the camera with nothing in it that's new? Doesn't make any sense. It's not encouraging.
No, it's bullshit. He's
Like
right.
I said, it's the tough thing that they've got is they've been made captain of a ship with a hostile crew.
Right.
So
That's actually probably true. You got a lot of roaches inside of these different areas, and they're getting upset and they're trying to hide the evidence. That's probably what I think would happen. We got somebody who's mad in chat. We pull this one up real quick. I knew you were a Republican, which is fine, but spreading this bullshit. What about this? Do you disagree with? What about this? Do you not like? This is Reid Hoffman's alt account. Yeah, bro, he made a Twitch just for this. It's George Soros. George Soros on alt account. Turn it off. Stop watching this. Oh god. Yeah. What's the problem with this at all? This guy. Look at the amount of periods he posted. Yeah. I'll give him like. Do we really have no comment? There's no comment at all. Chat. Why are you so afraid of diversity? I gotta say, I missed the stream at this one, laugh my ass off. Okay, well that's good. This guy was nice. Glad you're streaming. And this is, yeah, he's been positive, and yeah, I don't know what the hell happened. Okay, so as we see again here, it's a complainer in chat that's mad that I'm listening or watching something that they disagree with, but they can't understand or verbalize what the actual problem is. All they can do is sit around and complain and add literally nothing to the conversation at all, right? Like, you get pulled up, you're complaining, that's okay. Let me hear what you have to say. Yeah, again, the problem that I have, and a lot of this, is that it's a counter-argument. Yeah, he's single-handedly dragging down the quality of chat. I know. He's been banned. He's been destroyed. He's done.
they don't have like, it's not like you have like magical powers. You get made captain of a ship with a hostile crew. You still have a hostile crew.
Right.
True.
You've got to bring in people who are gonna
You got a lot of roaches.
be helpful as
Yep.
opposed to obstructionists.
Right.
I think he's probably right that a lot of the people that are inside internally don't want to follow the regime change. That's what I would say. I think that's true. This is just speculation. Well, I think it's very fair to like assume that a lot of these people don't want to have their position, questioned or called into, accountability. I think that's what would make sense. No shit. The other faction feels threatened. Yeah, of course.
In the case of Twitter, it wasn't a profitable company. It was like basically a break-even company, but at least it was break-even, and it had to pass an audit. The federal government is not break-even. It's literally losing $2 trillion a year.
That's a lot of money.
And it does not pass its audits. It fails its own audits. So, like...
Why don't they just change the rules for the audit? Like, I mean, if I was the federal government and I was filling my own audit, like, I mean, that kind of makes me look bad, right? Like, I just changed the fucking rules. Fuck that. Yeah, what a bunch of retards.
There's a case where, like, I think Senator Collins was telling me about how she gave the Navy $12 billion for more submarines,
$12
got
billion.
no extra submarines, and then held a hearing to say where'd the $12 billion go, and they were like, we don't know. That was it. I mean, like, basically stuff is so crazy. It's like only the federal government can get away with this level of waste. It's mostly waste. It's mostly not for.
See, this actually goes to like what some people who are critical of Elon Musk were saying is that the USAID is like the tip of the iceberg. Like, like USAID paid like $70,000. This was like $12 billion. So like if you really want to find out where the serious problems are, you go look at the military spending. And that's where you're going to have the real big boys.
It's mostly waste. It's mostly just ridiculous things happening.
Because they've been able to do it this way for so long. And they've become accustomed to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Milton Friedman said, like, money is most poorly spent when you're spending someone else's money on people you don't know. How much are you going to care?
Right.
And that's the federal government.
Yeah.
So they're spending someone else's money on people they don't know.
So they spent $12 billion for new submarines, and there's no new submarines? It's so outrageous that I almost don't even want to believe it. How does that happen? You shouldn't trust Elon? Oh, and I should trust the government instead. Great. What a good idea. What a good idea. That's been going really well. You know what? What a great idea. Let's trust the government. The government would never do anything wrong. Can't trust anyone? Well, yeah, but I think you're right. I'd want to see more evidence for this too. But yeah, I think that really one thing that they should do is that they need to do like deep dives into these different claims, right? And then really kind of investigate the web of like where this money went, who was involved, and how it happened. Because I think that's the problem, is that people see these big numbers, and a lot of people, including myself, it's very good like soundbite, it's very good headline material, but it's hard to really be certain that this stuff is happening. I think that they need to have hire people to do like detailed reports to explain to people how exactly this happened. It's very difficult. Yeah. What is this here? Investigate and show us the evidence. Yes, exactly. And start making arrests. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I think should happen too. Change the way the audit is done. That's Doge though, right? No, I was just joking around about that. That's all. And yeah. I feel like the money ain't going where it's supposed to in many other countries too. Yeah, I think so too. I think there's a lot of cases where that's true. Remember what Trump said that he had the intel that the 2020 election was rigged on Joe's podcast? Yeah, I was. Yeah, that never happened, did it? Yeah, because I did hear about I've heard before that the 2020 election was rigged and that it was rigged against Trump. And they tried to rig this one, but it was too big to rig, so they couldn't rig it against Trump this time. And so he still won presidency. But they tried to cheat again, but it wasn't enough. He still broke through, right? Yeah, so who knows? Bingo. Yeah, it's another bingo. And, and Joe, why don't you share those documents? No, I think that they do need to be more transparent with the actual documents and explaining it. So, yeah. Doge is doing good work, but it's still small potatoes. I think you're right. I would love to see them go into the defense budget and look at that. I think that the military, again, USAID is the tip of the iceberg. The military budget is the iceberg. I think that's the big one. And I think there's probably other entitlement programs that, my understanding is that, the entitlement programs that we have and the, military budget is about the same amount of money that we're spending, somewhere around there. So I think that probably both of those, there's a ton of fraud.
UAPs. They're going to release all the UAP information. So you're the guy to ask.
They
about
might
this.
be, yeah.
What, if any, possibility is there that there is some sort of advanced propulsion system technology that's being worked on in secret? And that they're trying to cover...
100%. I'd be mad if there wasn't. Really. I'd be fucking pissed. Yeah, y'all better figure this shit out before somebody else does. They're obviously going to figure it out sometime, yeah.
Cover this up with this talk of aliens and alien tech and not of this world, and is it possible that there's some sort of very secret program that's going on in cahoots with some defense contractors that are developing advanced propulsion systems that they're using for these drones?
That's a good question.
I mean, SpaceX, my company SpaceX has the most advanced rocket technology in the world. I think I'd know.
Right.
And to the best of my knowledge, there is not any magic. There's not some super advanced propulsion technology.
There have been people who have theorized different gravity drives and different things. Is there anything that's ever gotten past the theoretical stage?
No.
Nothing.
Well, there's nothing even that I'm aware of that works in theory. It's not like I would like this to exist, to be clear. I would like this to exist. And I have from a security clearance standpoint, I have top secret. I have the equivalent of an all-access pass from a security clearance standpoint. So, I don't think they're hiding it from me. Basically, I don't think they could.
Unless it's
To be fair, I think didn't they try to hide things that were happening in the Area 51? Didn't they try to hide that from Dwight D. Eisenhower, the president himself? I remember reading something about that a long time ago. Yeah, they did. And so then he said, he basically said, okay, I'm going to show up with the military and then, we're going to work this out. So, I don't think that's the, that's entirely, a certainty.
Completely in these weapons manufacturing corporations.
I mean, I know these weapons manufacturing companies, like from Boeing, Lockheed, and Northrop. I mean, yeah, they do some interesting things, but they do not have. There's no breakthrough that they have.
So
I'm confident.
So spaceships aren't real. That fucking sucks. Yeah, it sucks. The fuck? What the fuck? Bro. Why not?
Well, I mean, the government's one big.
They're
permits here,
Chinese,
so-
so-
yeah, well, you can tell
I
me
mean,
better than anybody.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Right,
People are
explain
mad
that.
about this clip.
Oh, so people pay into Social Security, and the money goes out of Social Security immediately. But the obligation for Social Security is your entire retirement career.
Yeah.
So you're paying with you're paying like if you look at the future obligations of Social Security, it far exceeds the tax revenue.
Yeah.
Far.
That's true.
Have you
He's right.
ever looked at the debt clock?
Yes.
Okay. There's our present day debt, but then there's our future obligations. So when you look at the future obligations of Social Security, the actual national debt is like double what people think it is
That's
because of the future obligations. So basically, people are living way longer than expected.
we gotta kill him. That's, I mean, obviously, right? Yeah, I guess so.
And there are
It's a
fewer
joke,
babies
by the
being
way.
born, so you have more people who are retired and get that live for a long time and get retirement payments. So the future obligations. So however bad the financial situation is right now for the federal government, it will be much worse in the future.
I think this is happening to a lot of countries, right? Where like more and more of their population is aging, and then the aging people that are part of the population that are drawing on like different entitlement programs are outnumbering the people that are younger. Yeah, I know. I think it's happening to Japan and the UK as well, and so like yeah, that's actually quite common. And where worse than this? Maybe, I don't know. People were living to 150 years old. That's actually not true. Apparently, Trump said that there was a person who was living, it was like 360 years old. So it's actually even more than that. We had Dracula collecting Social Security for a long time. Yeah, it's been pretty bad.
Was that what's taken so long with this Epstein files?
Yeah, what's up with that?
What is up with that?
What's
It was
up with that? Yeah, it's crazy, right?
like
Yeah.
it's like Lucy and the football with Charlie Brown when she always pulls that football away. It's the same thing. It's like they keep telling us they're gonna release it
Yeah.
day one. Oh,
You're
day
We have a
one.
serious case of no one's being arrested ophobia, you know.
Well, there's also
Like, what the fuck's going on?
what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Also, there's this real fear that someone's destroying the evidence, and you keep hearing these stories.
I think that's probably what happened. And I don't think that's what's happening. I think it already happened. Like, I don't see how you would. Yeah, of course.
Unsubstantiated stories
Yeah.
of
It's long gone,
FBI
yeah.
Well,
people
where is the
shredding.
evidence? I mean, the guy had
What's going
like tons of videos and recordings.
Yeah,
I mean, he had all sorts of things.
right,
Like, there's a mountain of evidence.
right.
So where is that mountain?
Yeah, where is
They-
that mountain? And what would be
There's
the
no more mountain.
reason why they
They
would
shaved it
agree? Like, there would have to be something in it for them to agree to not put it out, right? Like, there has to be some sort of financial entanglement, some sort of relationship with the people that are on that list.
Yeah.
That they can provide a value that was big enough for you to not release it, or to slow release it, or to hope you can get away with like putting out some redacted files that don't show anything.
Yeah.
This is
A
only
whole bunch
stage
of
one.
redacted.
Stage one, don't worry. The real stuff's
Yeah.
coming. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why wouldn't you just release it all? Like, what
Yeah.
what could possibly be
Well,
worth protecting in there?
Ghostland is in prison for a crime. It is interesting. Didn't she? If she went to jail for trafficking. So if you traffic something. So. If there's a person. And they're trafficking. You have point A to point B. Right? Naturally. So what's this? And what's this? It's just confusing. It's very confusing. Exactly, yeah. How is it that... Yeah, A is Epstein, B is Diddy. That's it? It's that simple? Yeah, I don't know what to say. But yeah, it's like, how did this person get arrested and nothing else happened?
I mean, I think I've got probably the same information that. I mean, I'm just reading what's the latest thing on the X. You know, I'm just looking at my
It's all
X feed,
amazing.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, it's a real page turner. And like, I thought we were gonna get some revelations today. I was like, big binders full
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah.
There's got to be something in there.
Yeah,
well, there
people
was
are pretty
all those
disappointed.
people that were given a copy of it. They were all like waving
Yeah,
it
it's
around
not-
like
it's
they,
not-
they got the Willy Wonka ticket.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and what happened?
Nothing.
Nothing.
So
I think Laura Loomer released it online. I
Yeah.
think, right?
She's not very pleased about this.
So does anybody find anything in there that's interesting?
No, it's all old stuff from 2015.
It's all just a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It is. Like, I don't even know what to say. Oh God. Elon Musk DEI damaging the air traffic. Oh, here we go. Have you reacted to Zelensky's visit to the White House? Yeah, I reacted to that. I did. I'll watch the Marco Rubio interview in a bit. I haven't gotten to it yet.
Saying that we need highly qualified air traffic controllers, and if you're retired, if you would consider doing it again, we could use you.
yes. So a lot of really qualified air traffic controllers were pushed out because of DEI stuff. So I mean, not to be blunt, I mean, a bunch of really good, talented old white guys were pushed out. It's not cool. And so
We gotta get some evidence for this.
there's a talent shortage in air traffic control because of DEI and not hiring people on merit.
Saying,
Yeah. We gotta get some evidence. We gotta see this. I want to see it. No evidence of this? I mean, I could see it happening, though. Like, I mean, I'm not willing to write a blank check either. But I definitely, like, want to see some evidence for sure. I could believe it. Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to believe. Really? Is it actually hard to believe when you see people that are practicing forms of discriminatory racism all over the place? And then this idea is hard to believe, too? I don't think... Yeah, I feel like it's very easily believable. Right? I mean, they did this... Like, they do this at schools. They do this, like, they openly do this with... like, there's, like, even accounts that are these people that work at these places that have these mindsets that do it. Yeah, I think it's easy to assume that.
Like payments account. The main payments computer is called PAM. Like payment accounts master database or something like that. But everyone calls it PAM. That's responsible for almost $5 trillion of payments a year, roughly $1 billion an hour. And when we came there, we're looking at the PAM, and it's like the payments have no. You could put a payment through with no payment categorization code, and no description on the payment, like basically untraceable blank checks. This is the kind of thing that if it was done as a public company, the company would be immediately delisted, and the
Yeah, you get auto.
executive team would be thrown in prison.
Yeah.
But this is just normal at the government. So we said, okay, our recommendation to the Treasury and the Federal Reserve was like, we need to make the payment categorization codes mandatory, not optional, and there needs to be an explanation. We're not judging the quality of the explanation, but there should be some explanation for what this payment is for, above nothing. That's a radical change to the system that is being implemented now.
So they don't even have to
my guess
explain
is
where
that
the money's
place
going?
is
That sounds like
$100 billion
bullshit.
a year.
$100 billion? And I'm not getting any of that. What the fuck? All right, we'll watch one or two more. Then after that, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna look at some other stuff too. It's called security clearance. Not everything can be labeled for everyone to see. Maybe that's the case.
The reason I went so hardcore for Trump was because, to me, this was a fork in the road, a very obvious fork in the road. If they had another 4 years, they would legalize enough illegals in the swing states to make the swing states not swing states. They would be blue states. Then they would win the presidential. They'd win the House, the Senate, and the presidency.
Yeah, I believe this too. I do. I think that the Democrats would be massively against illegal immigration if it led to people that were super conservative coming in there and displacing them. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's just what makes sense. Like, why wouldn't you do this?
They would then make DC into a state, maybe Puerto Rico, get 4 extra senators, pack the Supreme Court, so then you'll have the House, Judiciary, Senate, and Presidency, all blue. And then they will keep importing more illegals to cement that outcome. Basically what happened in California.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It would have been the end. That's why I went so hardcore for Trump. It was otherwise been the end. And that's why...
And I think that also the funny thing about this is in the long term, this probably won't even happen. Because, like, you're seeing a lot of, like, Hispanic populations and Latino populations voting for Trump even. Right? So, like, I don't even think this is a good long-term strategy, but it's a good short-term strategy.
The Democrat machine is so intent on destroying me.
Yeah, mostly men now? Well, I don't know. Not in our lifetime? Maybe not. This is the last one.
But I think if I fully destroy the corruption and the graft, they will kill me.
That's a fucked up thing to live with.
Yes.
Man.
So.
Man.
Damn it.
What was I?
He's
I
talking
really
about
hope they
Reddit.
don't kill you.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I strive to be alive.
Oh, Jesus.
But I think if I...
Yeah, and, wow. Elon Musk is still refusing to say that it wasn't a Nazi salute. Oh my god. Oh my god. See, the reason why, and this is the reason why you don't play into this game. So, it's kind of like what happened with Black Myth Wukong, and this is the way that the media wields power. The media wields power by misinterpreting and misunderstanding what you're doing on purpose, and then putting out fake information that then you have to correct, which then legitimizes the media. So if you basically, by playing the game, you lose. Because if you play the game, you legitimize them. And so that's why you can't play the game. Yeah, just ignore them, exactly. And that's what's happening with games media, and you're seeing video games recovering very quickly, right? And now you're seeing a lot of these studios that are moving away from these practices, moving away from caring about what these different places think, and go, like, and just do and make good games, right? It's because these places are, they don't actually really matter. They only matter as much as you think that they do. And so as soon as you have people that aren't playing into their games and they aren't playing into their power dynamic, you immediately have it fall apart, right?
For almost 20 years, Ellen DeGeneres ended every episode of her show the same way, by telling her audience to be kind. It went way past the point of being a catchphrase. It was her identity, her brand, and the foundation of her empire. But there was just one problem. It was all an act. Ellen Sherrod paid off big time. Her show became the beating heart of daytime television, pulling in over 3 million daily viewers at its peak. If you were an A-list celebrity with something to promote, Ellen was your first stop. If you went viral on the internet, Ellen was calling. If you had a heartwarming story to tell, Ellen's producers were already on the phone. Even if you never sat down to watch a full episode, her clips were everywhere, racking up billions of views across YouTube and social media. You couldn't escape it, and at the center of all the fun, the giving, and the good vibes was one smiling face. Ellen had crafted the perfect persona. She was relatable yet aspirational, funny but never mean, successful but always humble. She danced with her audience.
Not funny. Not humble. Not even attractive. It was painful to watch her shit.
Pranked celebrities, and gave away millions to people in need. There was no better role model, and she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom to prove it. However, her show, her mantra, her entire personality turned out to be one big elaborate lie.
Yeah.
2020 is where it
So
all went wrong for
surprised.
Ellen. Former employees spoke about a toxic workplace built on fear and intimidation. Clips resurfaced of her humiliating guests and audience members, and she got slaughtered online for the way she handled the pandemic. The woman who preached kindness day in and day out got exposed for being nasty and mean-spirited, and there was no going back. Her reputation was destroyed, and recently she fled the US altogether. So how did we let someone so cruel become one of the most powerful figures in entertainment? To understand that, we need to go back to where it all began, before the fame, before the show, and before Be Kind was ever even a thing. Ellen's story starts in the late 1970s, when she first tried her hand at stand-up comedy in Louisiana. It wasn't some childhood dream. She stumbled into it after cycling through jobs as a bartender, a waitress, a house painter, and even a vacuum cleaner saleswoman. Her first attempt at comedy came at a public speaking event at a coffee shop in New Orleans, where she was so nervous she could barely get her words out, but something clicked.
Have you always wanted to do comedy?
No, I really didn't. Until I got on stage, until I was talked into it, because I didn't want to, do it until some friends said, we're having a benefit, we need to raise some money, and I don't even know what the benefit was for. It was like, I think somebody needed a new pair of jeans or something at the time. And I went on stage, and I don't even know what I did, but it was funny at the time. I loved it. It was just the greatest feeling, and it just fell in my lap.
She continued performing anywhere that would have her, and by 1981, she managed to become an MC at Clyde's Comedy Club. Her material wasn't edgy or political. It was just honest observations about everyday life that people could relate to. Word spread about this quirky blonde comedian from Louisiana, and by 1984 she was touring nationally. Showtime even crowned her the funniest person in America that year, which gave a major boost to her career.
Hi, I'm Ellen DeGeneres, the funniest person in America. We're out here in the Texas Panhandle right now, searching for next year's winner.
By 1986, Ellen had landed a coveted spot on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, joining the ranks of up-and-coming comedians making their mark on late-night television.
I've been keeping in shape lately, You have to. I'm getting older. I'm 27. People say, you don't look 27. You look like you're about 23. I'm lucky because that runs in my family. My grandmother is 97. She looks about 93. That whole fitness thing runs in my family, though, I think. That my grandmother started walking 5 miles a day when she was 60. She's 97 today, and we don't know where the hell she is.
The Tonight Show opened new doors. She began appearing regularly on cable
That was actually
specials
funny.
and late-night shows, building her reputation as a reliable performer with clean, accessible humor. By 1989, she'd caught the attention of Fox, who cast her in a new sitcom called Open House. The show lasted 2 seasons, with Ellen playing a
I remember
wisecracking
Open
receptionist
House.
at a real estate office. It wasn't a hit, but it gave her valuable experience in front of the camera. In 1992, ABC gave her another shot with Lauryn Hill, where she played an eccentric nurse. The show was cancelled after just 4 episodes, but ABC executives saw something in Ellen. They liked her enough to develop a new series built entirely around her comedic persona. The show premiered in 1994 under the title These Friends of Mine, following Ellen as a neurotic bookstore owner in LA. By season 2, the network had renamed it simply Ellen, signaling their confidence in their new star. The gamble paid off. The show found its audience, setting into a comfortable groove in ABC's primetime lineup. For 3 seasons, the show played it safe. It followed familiar sitcom beats, relationship mishaps, workplace humor, and friend group dynamics. But behind the scenes, Ellen was wrestling with a secret that was becoming increasingly difficult to keep. In 1996, she made a decision that would put her entire career on the line. She was going to come out.
I didn't even realize the internal homophobia and the shame that I was still dealing with. I thought, if I just say the words, I'm gay, if I just do that, that's going to be enough.
Ellen pitched the idea of her character on the show coming out as well to ABC. Executives were divided, with some supporting the move and others being strongly opposed, but eventually she got the green light. The episode was titled The Puppy Episode, which was a codename they used to keep it secret during production, but the news ended up getting out anyway. At the time, gay characters on television were almost non-existent, and the idea of a show's main character being openly gay was unthinkable, so unsurprisingly, there was a lot of backlash. Various sponsors, including JCPenney, Johnson & Johnson, and Chrysler, decided not to buy advertising time during that episode. A few weeks before it aired, Ellen appeared on the cover of Times magazine with the words, "Yep, I'm gay," written in big, bold letters. Despite the resistance it faced, 42 million Americans tuned in to see the episode, which was a record for the show, and ultimately, it won an Emmy Award for Outstanding Writing for a Comedy Series.
I mean, why can't I just say the truth? I mean, be who I am. I'm 35 years old. I'm so afraid to tell people. I mean, Susan, I'm gay.
Ellen also appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show with her then partner Anne Heche.
Why was it necessary for you to come out and tell the public? Why was it necessary for the character to do so?
Because it's okay. Because it is okay.
ABC renewed the show for a 5th season, which starred a newly confident Ellen as she went out on dates, found a serious girlfriend, and enjoyed her life as an out gay woman. However, the network slapped a parental advisory warning at the beginning of each episode, despite the fact that the comedy was still gentle. To make matters worse, the show was widely criticized for being too gay, even by people within the LGBT community. Religious groups protested, critics fired insults, and worst of all, the show received a bomb threat. Ratings plummeted as the season progressed until the program was cancelled altogether. After this, Hollywood turned its back on Ellen. The woman who'd made television history found herself struggling to get work. She attempted to launch another sitcom, but networks weren't interested. The few auditions she got were bit parts that seemed designed to mock her sexuality rather than celebrate it. Her relationship with actress Anne Heche, which had been groundbreaking as one of the first openly gay celebrity couples, began to crumble under the spotlight. After 3.5 years together, Heche left Ellen in 2000.
You broke up with her because she had a lot of money, or you broke up with her because...
I broke up with her because her goal was to have a lot of money, and mine was to find love, and hers was I want 60 billion. Good luck. Our forks are never going to meet.
With everything falling apart around her, Ellen tried to return to her roots with a stand-up special called The Beginning. The title was meant to symbolize a fresh start, but the special failed to reignite her career. In 2001, she finally managed to get a new sitcom which aired on CBS, but it only lasted for 13 episodes before it was cancelled. However, just when it seemed like Hollywood had written her off completely, an unexpected opportunity changed everything. In 2003, Pixar cast her as Dory, a forgetful blue tangfish in Finding Nemo.
Oh, she did Dory.
The role perfectly suited Ellen's comedic timing and quirky delivery. The film was a massive hit, grossing over $870 million worldwide, and suddenly Ellen was back in the public's good graces. That same year, she launched what would go on to become her empire, The Ellen DeGeneres Show.
It's September 8th. This is our very, very first show, and you are my very first audience.
The format was simple but effective. While other talk shows chased scandal and controversy, Ellen offered something different, pure, uncomplicated fun. She danced with her audience, played games with celebrities, and promoted feel-good stories that made people smile. The show was an instant hit. Ellen had found the perfect balance between celebrity interviews and touching human stories. A-list celebrities felt comfortable on her couch knowing they wouldn't face difficult questions, and regular people came on to share their viral videos or inspiring stories, usually leaving with life-changing gifts. The giving became a cornerstone of the show, whether it was cars for struggling families, college tuition for deserving students, or houses for heroes. Ellen became known as television's most generous host. Her catchphrase, "Be kind to one another," wasn't just words. She seemed to be living it every single day.
And the Emmy goes to the Ellen DeGeneres Show.
The accolades poured in. By 2010, the show was winning Emmy Awards year after year. Ellen had successfully transformed herself from a controversial figure into America's daytime sweetheart. But beneath this carefully crafted image of kindness and generosity, cracks were starting to fall. The most concerning example came in 2008. Rumors were circulating that Mariah Carey was pregnant, and when Ellen had her on the show, she turned the interview into a manipulative game. She brought out champagne, trying to force Mariah to either drink, revealing she wasn't pregnant, or refuse and confirm that she was. Mariah was visibly uncomfortable and tried to dodge the situation, but Ellen wouldn't take no for an answer.
The other thing is that people are saying that that you're pregnant. There's rumors.
Don't discuss that.
All right. Well, you don't have to.
No, that's okay. No, honestly,
you
how
don't
do
have to
I- how
answer
do
me.
I-
Let's just toast with champagne and decide.
This is
I'm
peer
just gonna
pressure.
say.
You see what
let's toast to you not being pregnant. If you're not pregnant, then we should.
My goodness. It's too early for me. I only drink after 3 p.m.
Yeah. You're pregnant. You're pregnant. You are pregnant.
No.
Mariah has since admitted that this interview made her feel extremely uncomfortable. She was in fact pregnant at the time, but chose to keep the news to herself because she'd previously suffered a miscarriage. Sadly, shortly after Mariah's appearance on the show, her worst nightmare came true because she miscarried again. Ellen's habit of pressuring her guests to get the inside scoop led to another infamous moment a few years later, this time with Taylor Swift.
Interesting.
Taylor was on the show to promote her new album, but Ellen was far more interested in interrogating her about her love life.
You were here with your boyfriend Zac Efron last time. How's he doing?
We actually never dated.
Yes, you did. So when y'all were here, but obviously late nights, y'all are spending together, y'all wrote that song for me.
Yo.
When you're touring, will that song be on stage?
I'll have to call Zach. Get the rights to it.
Well, you probably talked to him earlier today. How's he doing?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a while because we didn't date.
Yes, you did. Why do you deny it?
Because we didn't.
Oh, okay. Which song is about Zach on the new CD?
There's nothing really about Zach on the CD because we didn't date.
All right.
So, yeah.
At this point, the interview was already pretty uncomfortable. Ellen had an agenda she wanted to push, and nothing Taylor could say would change that. Later, Ellen forced Taylor into playing a game where she'd show pictures of different male celebrities on screen, and Taylor would have to ring a bell if she dated them.
All right,
We didn't date.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's ridiculous to show Zach. They never did date. Okay. Hold it like you're gonna ring it at some point. Okay.
All right.
Danny DeVito, did y'all date?
You know I can't talk about that.
All right. All right, John.
What do I don't know what I'm.
You're supposed to ring.
But
what?
I don't want to. I don't want to.
All right, I'll ring.
Because they'll send me angry emails,
Here.
and I don't want to get them.
I'll hold it for you.
What are you doing to me?
That's toxic as fuck.
She's on the brink of tears and everyone is laughing, and Ellen is ignoring all her requests to stop. This was brutal to watch. You could tell they didn't have that in the pre-interview. Poor Taylor. Over the years that followed, there were many moments where Ellen's mask
That was
slipped. There was the interview with
brutal.
Hassan Minhaj, where she mispronounced his name, then insisted that she'd got it right.
And it's Hassan Minhaj. Yes.
No.
Really?
Well, my name is Hassan Minhaj.
Oh.
There was the interview with Katy Perry, where she completely forgot that Katy had been married to Russell Brand, despite having given her a wedding gift in a previous episode of the show.
You were not married.
I was when I was 25.
Were you?
Yeah, it's been a long time, honey.
To who?
No wrinkles, no lines.
To who?
His name was Russell Brand.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Russell. Yeah.
Remember, you gave me some wedding gifts on this show.
Yes, I do. I do.
Cool, 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 cool.
Yeah.
There was a time she had to go at Celine Dion for not cutting her son's hair.
I'm not too much into politics stuff.
All right. Well, it seems like you're busy with something because you're forgetting to cut your son's hair. This is.
Right.
Look at him. He is beautiful, but look at his hair. When are you going to cut that hair?
There were also the numerous interviews with Sofia Vergara, where she'd repeatedly mock her accent.
Do you get gifts?
I get gifts.
Yeah. What kind of gifts do you get? Can you get rid of the accent?
No,
Is it?
I can't. I've tried and I'm too old already.
I mean, literally, you've been on this show for 10 years and your accent has gotten worse. How is that possible?
None of this was okay, but Ellen's guests would generally give her a pass. Most people tend to avoid confrontation, and even more so when there are cameras rolling. However, there was one guest who refused to put up with Ellen's shit, Dakota Johnson. On a 2019 episode of the show, Ellen fired a jab at Dakota for not inviting her to her birthday party, but it turns out she did.
You turned 30.
I did.
And, how was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited. Last time I was on the show, last year, you gave me a bunch of shit about not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited. But I did invite you and you didn't come. So.
This time you invited me?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How do you know? I don't think so.
Ask everybody. Ask Jonathan, your producer. Who said you were?
I was invited? Why didn't I go?
I don't know.
Was it, oh yeah, I had that thing.
These types of uncomfortable moments didn't just take place with celebrities. For example, in one segment from the same year, Ellen mocked and degraded a translator who was helping her interview a young Chinese-speaking guest, turning what should have been a pleasant moment into an exercise in public humiliation.
I think you'd be good at everything because you play the ukulele and then now you're playing electric guitar, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What else do you want to learn?
你现在在学怎么弹电子吉他，你还想再学？
Just one question. Just what else does he want? I don't know what you're telling him, but just ask him what I'm saying.
Okay, sorry. 你现在还想学什么？
See, that was that short.
After this, the translator got flustered and lost her composure, but Ellen just wouldn't give her a break.
学 finger style 的吉他。So a finger style guitar, besides electric guitar.
A finger style? What's a finger style? Oh, acoustic. Well, don't just ask him. Don't look at me and go, I don't know. We're not having a conversation. I'm asking him what is a finger style?
Acoustic.
You don't know that. Ask him.
Okay.
She's painful to watch.
你现在弹的是 finger style， 你知道是什么？我知道 finger style 是什么。He knows what a finger style is.
But we don't.
那你能不能给我们解释一下？
就弹一些演奏曲子，就是只单。
Never mind. Okay. I've lost interest.
You've got a feel for that translator. She was clearly very nervous. Ellen's mean streak extended to her audience members too. In one particularly cruel segment,
I'm over
she
this.
set up a free merchandise table with hidden cameras, instructing audience members to take only one item each. When one woman took an extra item, Ellen played the footage to the entire audience, then publicly shamed her.
Then she goes back, and she returns.
I'm over this. Is there something more educational, beneficial? Done that one.
Superman defeats a group of supervillains called the Demolition Team with ease. While this happens, a group of young cancer patients from the Children's Cancer Center in Metropolis watches him in awe. Afterward, Superman visits the hospital and asks the doctors if he can take the children to the Justice League Watchtower. The doctors agree, and Hal Jordan creates a plane made of light to transport them. Superman keeps an eye on the children during the journey. During the trip, the kids have fun experiencing zero gravity. When they arrive at the Watchtower, the Justice League welcomes them warmly. The heroes play with the children and organize a scavenger hunt using their gadgets and tools. The final task is to take a photo of Batman smiling, and Superman gives the kids smartphones to complete the challenge. At first, they struggle to get Batman to smile, but a boy named Latif tells Batman a joke, finally making him grin. The kids quickly snap the picture. Later, Superman takes the children to the moon, providing them with spacesuits for the adventure. On the moon, the children write their names on moon rocks, leaving a lasting mark. They stay there for a while, sitting together and gazing at Earth from afar, creating a beautiful and unforgettable memory. Superman defeats a group of supervillains called the
You know, in a sense, this is like grim and depressing stuff, but honestly, for the scope of this video, man, this is fun. I can't wait. This is a banger, so let's go. Steam's policy just forced Activision to disclose their use of AI in Call of Duty. That hard confirms what, well, we've all seen with our eyeballs, but it also confirms leaks, including leaks of internal documents that we actually covered a little while ago. But then we zoomed in the story, and when we did, it got worse. And this has got to be seen to be believed. It's not the title we've run with for today's video, I think, anyway, but they've literally found a way to profit from your death. Yeah, hilarious. Now, COD has always been a massive money-making machine. Now it looks desperate. Even though it's literally not desperate, it's successful. No, this is not desperation, this is them pushing and pushing. And most egregiously, there is a new system designed to profit from your death in the game. It's all made worse, of course, by AI cheapening what we even see in the game, including our rewards, and that means that it doesn't feel like the fruits of their truly absurd, overpriced, complex, layered monetization system. I mean, even just before recording, there was a thing that we thought conferred certain benefits, right, for like buying it for the season. Then we found out it's actually a like stacking thing as you buy it across seasons. This is insane, I'm going to go mad. But don't worry, we'll go mad for you, and the upshot is something that costs $70 with a budget of well over 600 million, I mean COD Blops Cow, yep, that one, costs $700 million. Something with that budget, and this price tag has never felt so cheap. Let's go. Now, something you don't know about me is that I enjoy building things like this app front end, and that's why today's sponsor, Boot.dev, is so relevant, because with Boot, you'll learn back-end web development using Python and Go. I've got a sick discount for you. Those are two excellent languages, and they will set you up well as a programmer. And why I love Boot, though, specifically is how it works, because it's basically a fantasy RPG. You've got quests, XP, public leaderboards. I mean, just look at the public leaderboard updating in real time as real users are doing lessons, and so much more, like the spell book, which is packed with programming.
Can I stop YouTube from making VODs of my live streams?
Hello and welcome back. A YouTuber shared a link to her live stream, and when I was ready to watch the replay, I discovered that the live stream was no longer there. So when I reached out to the YouTuber to ask what happened to her live stream, she told me she deleted the live stream just because she had technical issues when she started the live stream and at some different points during the live stream. So she felt that the quality of the live stream doesn't represent her standards, so she decided to delete it from her channel. So, but I asked her that, does she...
Well, the stock market is having an absolute meltdown right